A counterexample is a single case which disproves a for-all generalization. For each of the following generalizations, can you describe a possible counterexample? The first one says, after a U.S. visitor deals with U.S. currency for some time, the visitor exclaims that all U.S. coins are silver in color. What would be a counterexample to this generalization? And that would be a penny. And so, since pennies are generally copper in color, they are a counterexample. The next one says, your friend from a warmer climate visits upstate in the winter. After a few days of visiting, the friend says, no trees living outdoors in New York stay green all through the winter. What is a counterexample to this person's generalization? Well, it is true that many trees lose their leaves in the winter, but certain kinds do not. For example, evergreen trees. Evergreens are a counterexample. Next, a person makes the claim that on a bright sunny day, no stars can easily be seen. Now, what makes this one interesting is there's a lot of examples of support for the statement. It may be estimated that there are about 10 to the 24 stars in the observable universe. And that would be a 1 with 24 zeros. That's a lot of stars. But the point is that it only takes one example that goes against the generalization to prove it false. And so if you know your science, you know there is a counterexample to this statement. Technically, our sun is a star, and it certainly can be easily seen on a bright sunny day. So it would be the counterexample. But now let's go to a generalization which has an infinite number of examples of support. The square of every whole number n is larger than the number n itself. Let's look at a few cases where that would be true. 2 times 2 makes 4, so the square of the original number is bigger than the number itself. 3 times 3 would be 9, and 4 times 4 is 16, and this just would go on for all the natural numbers that are greater than 2. But can you think of 2 whole numbers which would not follow this pattern? Well, 0 times 0 makes 0, and 1 times 1 makes 1. So 0 and 1 are counterexamples. Now this idea doesn't just apply to math and science, it could apply to philosophy as well. So here's a couple examples from philosophy where people might use this technique to try to prove something. So if an atheist were to state no God exists anywhere in the universe, a counterexample could be observing or somehow experiencing a place in the universe where there was a God. But what if we were to look at the opposite situation? A religious person states a God exists everywhere in the universe. A counterexample could be observing or somehow experiencing a place in the universe where there was no God. These are cases of counterexamples in science, math, and philosophy. But what we want to look at next is the scientific method and how they are very important in that context.